Okay, hi Parv, welcome. I'm excited to chat with you today. Before we begin, is there anything that you want to um mention about your win, your two-time Survivor win on Survivor Australia?
Some things are woven into the fabric of our destiny before we incarnate in human form. And for me, that's winning Survivor twice. And I missed out on it 15 years ago in Samoa. So getting the opportunity to go back and have this second chance and win on the world stage on an international game with some of the best Survivor players on the planet just feels like I've completed my soul's purpose when it comes to Survivor.
Mm, I love that. And
Thanks. Just to keep it light.
yeah, just to start off really chill. You mentioned in another interview, you said, I feel complete now with Survivor when asked if you would go back.
I really do. And I think that's such an important feeling for us all to know and to be able to sense is when something is complete. And there's nothing more to it. I'm not pushing it away. I'm not avoiding it. I'm not saying I'm done with it, but then there's like a little nagging seed in the
Mm.
back of my mind. It's actually is simply complete. And it's sort of like I've finished reading. It's like when you finish reading a book and you're complete with the book and you put it back on the shelf or you hand it off to a friend for them to read it. It's like, yeah, someone else can pick up the survivor story from here.
Love that. And really just diving like straight um into the meat of the episode today, which is really covering topics that are going to be in our course, our upcoming course that launches next week. What I love about the course is that it's like truly a reflection of your life and these lessons that you've learned through your life that you've put in your book as well, which I think is really cool that the curriculum kind of follows that.
Yeah, and really the whole foundation of the book, the journey that I take the reader on is going from a place of fear and insecurity and outsourcing safety and self-worth from the outside to, by the end of the book, developing a really solid friendship with oneself so that confidence comes from within and people are willing to take risks and try new things and really build a beautiful, fun life that works for them individually.
And I know you mentioned that in your book as well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the chapter where you become pregnant is where you start to relate to your body in a different way. And I'm just curious if you can say more about your own relationship with your body when it came to notice, like feeling, even being connected to the signals that it's telling you to now where you feel those signals and then act on them.
Our bodies are so helpful. They send us information constantly through sensation and feelings. You know this as a
Mhm.
somatic therapy expert. And for many years of my life, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, I was overriding the signals of my body to get what I wanted. And when I played Survivor, I couldn't eat. We were barely sleeping. So the needs of my body, I wasn't able to fulfill them. So I really just separated myself from my body. And it served me very well. That style of overriding my body, demanding it do things for me, controlling it, pushing it harder, faster, farther is what helped me win Survivor. But then back in the real world outside of the game, that style of relating to my body started to become really harmful. And I wasn't able to recognize unhealthy relationships. I wasn't able to distance myself from toxic environments because I didn't have a connection to the signals of my body that would tell me, hey, this is bad, get out of this.
Mm.
So I was just still pushing myself to do what I thought, I wanted to achieve certain goals. So once I became pregnant, it was a real slowdown because I was really nauseous in the beginning. I was exhausted. I remember I was in New York City and I tried to go to a flywheel class. It's like Soul Cycle or Peloton. And I sat on the bike and I was like, I can't move my legs. Like I was too tired. And then that had never happened to me. I was always able to push through
Mm.
exhaustion or fatigue before. And when I was pregnant, I just wasn't able to do it. So I went home and I just sat on the couch and surrendered to this rest period. And inside of that space where I just couldn't override my body, something massive shifted inside of me. And I realized, oh my God, I'm not doing any of this work to make this kid, make this baby inside of me. My body
Mm.
and the intelligence of my body is doing this for me. And I really just needed to get out of the way. So it was a complete paradigm shift where I was resting. And inside of the space of resting, that was the most productive I'd ever been. I was making a human being. Like, that's wild that we do that. I still think it's crazy that women do this every day and it's not talked about as a gigantic miracle, as like the biggest miracle of all time. It's really incredible how it works. And it has nothing to do with us pushing or figuring it out or trying harder. It actually requires releasing effort. And
Mm.
it's so paradoxical that when we release effort, so much, so many miracles can occur.
Mm.
So that kind of dramatic shift changed everything in my life. And I started becoming more attuned to creating life in an effortless way, not a passive way. There's an activation inside of it because I have to be alert and I have to be aware and awake to synchronicities or to what I want and to connecting with the outside world and saying yes to things that are right and aligned. But there is an effortlessness now to that creative process for me that didn't exist before. And so everything kind of happens in a more elegant way.
Mm. When you say that too, I think about your time on Survivor Australia because I really felt like there's different styles of gameplay. There's like I think of Rob on Winners at War where he's very like Godfather and it's like he kind of has the game like in a chokehold. And then there's people that play more under the radar and I thought your game was really interesting in connection to what you just said because it felt like you were target number one, and yet somehow you got through the game, it still maintaining that status. Everyone was trying to work with you, and but you weren't forcing things. Like it felt very effortless. Like you glided to the end in a way, which I'm sure it felt different in practice. But from the outside, it did look like this almost effortless, just like you said it was like your destiny, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna get to the end.
Hmm. And no one voted for me.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
Suri was so mad. She's like, why is everyone, you're the number one threat. Why is everyone voting for me instead of you?
I was actually in shock by the end how everyone was going to you. There was one episode in particular where I was like, she's making it to the end because everyone was trying to work with you. And it reminded me of Micronesia where you were the center pin of all these connections. And I
Mhm.
was like, this is crazy that people are like coming to you and like begging you, like, oh, take me to the end. Like, I'll do anything. I was like, this doesn't even make sense.
I know. I think that is the gift of aligning your life with what you are meant to be doing in the world. And that is a direct correlation, like this is correlated to all of the work that I have done in my body and in my mind and with the surrendering and with the writing my book and with forgiving myself for the mistakes that I made in my past, forgiving other people for treating me poorly. Like just a lot of forgiveness, surrender, a lot of spiritual work to let some things go that were weighing me down from my past, and to also say no to things that are not aligned with what I'm meant to be doing in my life, not to worry about what other people think, not trying to prove myself to anyone. I really let go of a lot of that. Like I don't fit into the structures that society says this is how you succeed. And I've let go of trying. And since I've done that and just become more myself and more willing to share my mistakes, I mean, in my book, I share a lot of like not really good things about my life. And I share a lot of my mistakes and the hardships and the challenges that I've been through and the transparency. I do that. I share myself transparently to offer that to other people too, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, just accept yourself. We're all going to make mistakes. And as I've done that, it's just given me so much permission to fall, to make mistakes, to not say the right thing, to like be okay with not looking good and not being liked. And it is a power when you get to that place where you don't really, your value isn't dependent on other people liking you or accepting you. Your value comes from inside. And it's just like, I accept myself no matter what. Like, yeah, sometimes I make mistakes and I'll be like, oh no, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But I'm like, I've always recovered. I've
Mhm.
always cleaned up my messes. And anyone can do that. And when you get to that place internally, you are so powerful and so magnetic that everyone wants to work with you and things just work out and life gets so much easier and more fun because you're just you're your authentic self. And that is so abundant and magnetic. People want a piece of that. They want to get close to it.
Yes. I think that's one thing that I've really learned from you too is the idea of letting yourself be messy. And you wrote this bit in your book that I think it gave me like chills. I reread it like 3 times when I read it the first time. And it was at the very end when you're with Sarah and you're talking to her about Sarah, I messed things up, da da da. And her total badass self just goes, well, that's nature. We're messy, we create and destroy and do it again and again. And that's what nature does, and you are of nature. And it's like, shit, like, why do I expect myself to be perfect when I'm nature and this is how nature functions? Like, I can be messy and life will go on.
That's why Survivor and I are so in love with each other because it is nature. It's wild. We're
Mhm.
sleeping on the earth day in and day out. We're bathing in the ocean. We're gazing at the stars every night. And that is a place where I attune to my intuition more deeply than anywhere else in the world. And I would recommend that to everyone. If you're feeling disconnected, separated, or in your head and overwhelmed by the demands of life, go outside, lay your body on the earth, face down, lay your chest on the earth, and just let your heart sync up with the heartbeat of the earth. And it just instantly is so grounding and connecting that you'll just feel better.
Yeah. And you mentioned intuition, which is something that we explore deeply in the course with the new curriculum. We're going to be exploring how to use the sensations and somatic signals from your body to make decisions. And one thing that I'm so curious about is on Survivor Australia, you were able to detect a blind side, and I thought it was so a great example of life as well, because you're in a situation where you really only have your intuition, because to your face everyone's saying, Parvati, I'm with you. This was when the other half of the world tribe, there was that whole thing with them, trying to vote you out. I don't really know what happened, if they were going to write your name down that night or what, but something was going on. And you have people saying to your face, I'm with you, I'm voting with you. But then you have this feeling, I'm assuming, in your body that's like, alert, alert, something is not right. And I'm just curious, like, that's something we experience every day in our lives, is people saying to our face, like, this is fine. Why are you not fine with this? Whether it's at work or in a relationship, and you have this feeling in your body that like something is not right. So I'm just curious if you can speak on that experience, and like, how did you know that something was up to the point where you confidently, uh, you didn't play the idol, but you brought it out and then you bluffed another advantage. And I'm just curious, like, how did you get to that point where you felt so confidently that something was gonna happen that night?
Through the somatic work that I've done recently over the past few years, I have developed a trust with myself and an acceptance of all the feelings and sensations in my body. And I don't know about you, but before I started doing somatic work, the work that you and I teach in the course, I would feel something in my body and I would push it away. I'd be like,
Mm,
oh, I don't want to feel that. Or actually, this doesn't match what this person is telling me. And I would rather believe what this person is telling me because that makes me feel better about myself than this feeling in my own body that is at odds with what this person is saying. So, because of the work that we have done, I am able to accept all those sensations and I really trust my body as my ultimate authority. So when someone is telling me something to my face and I'm interpreting that through the filter of my body's truth meter, and I feel like just something's a little off, and it's not an alarm bell. It's not loud. It's really quiet. The signals of my body that are like, something's weird.
mm,
So I have to step away because the confusion happens in my mind. When someone's telling me something, there's confusion in my mind that I'm like, oh, and I want to figure it out through my mind. But then if I can get some distance from that person, if I can take a little walk with myself, if I can sit on the earth and I can ground and I can take a moment, I'll settle into my body and then I'll check in with my body and I'll say, what's real? What's true? And then my body will be like, yeah, that's off. Something's off. If I sense confusion in my mind, that is a
mm,
clear signal that something is off. And then from there, I'll dig for more information. I'll go ask someone else, or I'll have a conversation with that person who I originally had the confusion with, just to get some more information. Can I feel better with this person? Does the confusion clear up, or does it get worse? And that's really just how I operate in life now. If my brain's confused around someone, then I take that as a signal to get some space and then to gather more information from other sources or from that person again. And if I still remain confused, I'm like, that's just not for me. That's not a person I want to
mm,
spend time with. I don't want to spend time with people who make me feel confused or doubtful of myself. I want to blindside them out of the game. I want to align myself with people who I feel very clear, very solid, very safe with. That's like Suri. I never doubted her for 1 second. There was never confusion with her.
mm,
And it's because her actions lined up with her words. And then there are other people that I was like, oh, something's off. And if something was off, I was like, I'm just not going to spend my time trying to make it work with you. I'm
mm.
going to get rid of you.
That confusion that you're talking about, it makes me think of just the incongruence between what is happening outside and then how you're feeling inside. So it's like exactly just what you mentioned of like someone saying something to your face and then you're feeling that um, some kind of dis-ease. And it's interesting too that you said that is a quiet feeling because my next question is in a game like Survivor and then also outside of Survivor in life, we I think people we feel these feelings and in Survivor it comes across as paranoia. So it's like, oh, you're just paranoid because we see that happen. We saw it in Traders, there's um it is true paranoia. Maybe they're detecting something going on, but it's not quote real. Like maybe someone's not actually going to blindside them or actually going to come after them at that point, but they have this paranoia. In life, that might look like, something similar. But how do you tell the difference between paranoia and something that is real? Because I also felt like you didn't have at least it didn't show that a point in the game where you were like, "Oh my God, someone's going to come after me," and there wasn't something planned. The times that you felt that, there was something going on. So I'm curious, kind of the inverse of that as well. How do you filter out the difference between something that is like a very intense feeling between something that is a gut feeling?
It comes when it's real, it comes on slowly. And I think it starts as confusion or that incongruence that you're talking about. Or this just this little like, huh, like something smells funny. Like it's not very strong and very loud and like instantly I'm freaking out. It's like I just had a conversation with someone who normally I feel really settled with. And now, today, in this moment, I feel unsettled having this conversation with this same person. And then it's like sort of a growing sense of unease
Mm.
as I would navigate throughout the day. So yeah, it wasn't like huge, massive alarm bells. It's just like a growing sense of unsettledness with people who I once at one point did feel settled with.
Mm. Um, And in the same vein of that kind of congruence between body and the outside world, I saw recently in an interview you said something about you were getting interviewed in a sauna and someone
Oh yeah.
for some reason. And the host was asking you about talking to like if you were to talk about to the CEO of a big oil company or something like that. He's like, "Could you charm them?" And you said, "I actually don't think I could charm someone who disgusts me." And you're like, "I used to be able to do that, but now I can't." And I'm just curious if you can speak more on that. Why can you no longer be charming to someone who disgusts you? Because we
My
saw you do it in
body,
the past, in past
I know
seasons of
Russell.
Survivor, and it served you, I think, in those situations.
Yeah. Honestly, it's my life experience. I've had so many encounters with very controlling men who are bullies. And I am so inherently now, like in my body, viscerally repulsed by that energy, by that archetype, that I can't even be around those personality types. So if I sense someone has this, really it comes from a deep insecurity inside themselves, but it's this need to control other people, manipulate them for their own sort of power and gain. I I can't have those people in my orbit because I'm so far removed from that sense of needing any really any approval from anyone at this point, but especially from that type. If somebody's trying to control me for their own gain, I have to remove them from my life. I cannot flirt with them. I cannot charm them. I know exactly how to manipulate those types of people or to charm those types of people to say in like a nicer kind of way. But yeah, I don't want to. I find them really, really gross. And I can't go there anymore. My body won't let me. My body's like, No more of this. Like, don't get close to these people. I don't want to engage in any kind of power game with that type of person, because I have nothing to gain from it
Hmm.
anymore. It's just it would help. I would lose my self-respect and my dignity.
You don't want to do that.
I don't want to. I worked really hard to gain self-respect and dignity, and I intend on keeping it.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think one thing too is that that's such a learnable skill is to identify what disgust feels like in your body. And I think we talk about that in the course as well. Disgust for recovering people pleasers is so valuable because, like you said, it's something like I've felt disgust and put it off as like, oh, maybe I'm feeling insecure, maybe I'm feeling just weird, maybe I'm triggered. And it's like, who fucking cares if you're feeling that disgust? Because that's what you're describing is like just a feeling of visceral disgust. Um, that's something that we explore in the course. And I'm curious, how do you experience disgust? Like, how do you know you're disgusted with someone?
It's a gag reflex. It's like when we talk about the body sensations, disgust for me is a physical, like it's that sound and it's that feeling like,
Mm,
like yuck, sick. And then I have to get rid of them. Like I have to get away, or I have to, if it's like when you're a kid and your parents or your caregivers are making you eat something that you don't like, it's that feeling where you have to like gag it and choke it down. But the great news is once we become adults,
you can spit it out.
you can spit it out. You don't have to eat stuff that disgusts you. And that's a good place to practice if you have been the kind of person overriding your disgust mechanism because you think you need the vitamins in the broccoli or you need the money from this creepy dude who's hired you to do some job. Look, I've done
Mhm.
some creepy jobs for creepy dudes in the past. And at that point in time, I was very young, I was very naive, I needed the money. And the trade-off I felt was worth it to kind of just deal with these creepy dudes to make the cash, to get the thing. And now at this stage, I have developed so much ability to create um, work that really works for me and that aligns my creative pursuits. I'm really happy with and proud of, and I can make money different ways now. So I don't have to work with creepy dudes anymore, thank God. But I swear it's a rite of passage. Like we all have to get through that place of we know what it feels like to choke down disgusting food in the name of it's healthy or it's good for us or we're
Mm,
making money because we need it. Like, no. Once you get to a certain place where you're like, I can't stomach this. It's so
yeah.
disgusting. I have this visceral gag reflex around this person, around this food, around this smell, around this environment. Honor that gag
Mhm.
reflex and say
Yeah.
no and get away. And it was like, I think it was really healing for me to win Australian Survivor in the way that I won because truly, episode one, I had the gag reflex around Rob from South Africa. And thankfully, other people also did, and they listened to that, and we were able to vote him out unanimously after he tried to blindside me. So I didn't have to stomach working with someone who repulsed me in order to win the game. I was able to win by aligning myself with people who I really wanted to work with. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that other people can do in life.
Yes. I love that for you too. I also loved that at Tribal when he kind of started coming after you, you were fighting back. Because in that game, it's so rewarded to be quiet and to not make enemies. And I was like, fuck yeah, girl. Like, tell him. I was so glad you said
He
something.
just was out of his depth when he came after me. Apparently, in his season, the way he won was by controlling and
Oh,
bulldozing.
yeah, I don't like that. It's such a boring way to. It's such a makes for really boring TV, anyways, too.
Well, we didn't let it fly.
No, thank God. And kind of going back to something you said earlier, which was when we were talking about the incongruence, you said when I feel that with someone, when I'm feeling confused, like I don't want to be around people that make me feel confused. I want to blindside them. So what came up for me in that moment and what I'm feeling right now is like a part of me goes, yeah, like fuck that. I want to blindside someone out of my life, remove them, whatever that looks like. And then a part of me goes, but that's not being a very good friend. So I'm curious, as a recovering good girl, how do you how does that work for you when it comes to removing people from your life that do make you feel confused?
Um, I think it happens slowly and organically as I have become more attuned to my own truth, and I've allowed myself to want certain kinds of relationships and want things in my life really before I had a baby and before became a mom. And even after I became a mom. So this is only relatively recently that I've attuned to what I want in my life. And I've asked myself, what do I want? What are my needs? What do I really want? And I think a lot of women don't do that. And we tend to put other people's wants and needs before our own. We tend to sacrifice our wants for other people. And there's a payoff to that. It feels good. It feels good to help people and to make people happy. And there is a cost to that if we're doing that at our own detriment, if we're not asking ourselves what we want ever, and we're always giving ourselves away for other people, we really lose ourselves. So it was a slow kind of reclaiming of asking myself, what do I want? And then giving myself whatever I wanted, slowly but surely. And it could have just been like, I just want to go for a walk this morning and listen to music. I just want to call a friend who I haven't spoken to in a while. I want to eat pancakes for breakfast. Like these little kind of things
Yeah.
start to help build that muscle of asking yourself what you want and then, allowing yourself to have that. And then from there, I think it's easier to
Mm,
recognize when someone is um, misaligned or someone is constantly taking from us or someone's needs are at odds with what our needs are.
mm,
And from that place, we can just start to become more aware of the relationships that we have currently in our lives. And it may be that the majority of the relationships in your life are takers and you're a giver. And if that's true, then you just want to slow down and ask yourself, well, what am I getting from
mm,
these relationships? And it's probably you're outsourcing your self-worth by like being good or giving people what they want in order to feel good about yourself. So then you have to have a grief process and like cry about it and grieve, like, why do I not value myself? It's a whole process. It's not an easy fix. And that's why I love the course that you and I teach together because it goes over the time span of 6 weeks.
mm,
So people get an experience of being in community, being in relationship with other people who are also working these kind of same steps in this process to get to a place of their old habits of self-sacrifice start to die on the vine, even as these new habits of asking yourself what you want, surrounding yourself with people who also give back to you, just as you give to others. Though that kind of new life starts to grow at the same time as the other habits start to shed. So it can be a gentle process, but it can be
Yeah.
really disorienting and uncomfortable. So that's why I like doing it in community.
It
Just
can
kind of
be
work.
very difficult alone, yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is the more you orient to yourself and you orient to your pleasure and your needs and your boundaries and your inner world of what your body's telling you it likes and doesn't like, the people that are just not compatible with that will naturally, you just will naturally discover that you're incompatible with them and spend less time with them, is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
And it can be gentle. It doesn't have to be this
Yeah.
hard line of you
Blindside.
like what?
It's not, it doesn't have to be a blind side.
It doesn't have to be a blind side. On Survivor, Survivor is different. There are parallels to life on Survivor, but I'm really not blindsiding people out of my life at home. And it's more of a gentle process
A
of,
slow
yeah, like
phase.
slowly discovering this person doesn't work for where I'm growing. And, that we slowly let each other go because sometimes they'll let you go too.
Yeah.
That's the most merciful way. Sometimes people have a harder time letting go, and we can talk about that more too
Mm,
in the course.
yeah. Um, I really like that too, because I feel like, at least for myself, I notice sometimes I have trouble letting people go because of the label of like wanting to be a good girl, good friend, good daughter, whatever it is, when there's a natural incompatibility. And I think when, like you said, when you start to tune in to the natural, organic needs and desires and boundaries of your body, it just becomes very obvious that there's no moral failing on either side. You're just not compatible. And for me, that's that I can swallow that a little better.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like a natural life cycle. Like if we're talking about nature,
Mm,
nature is a cyclical experience of truth. And there's cycles in nature, there's seasons in nature. I think we get hung up on sort of these virtues of loyalty. And I think loyalty can become very toxic
yeah.
when we stay loyal to people whose values don't align with our values. And we support someone who is, harming us. Like, that's not helpful for anyone.
Yeah.
So I think be more like nature. Yeah, the weed whackers just showed up in my front yard. I don't know if you think we got a gardener out there who's helping me
Whacking.
see nature,
Yeah,
improving.
just like letting things die is kind of what I hear from the seasons
Yeah,
analogy.
let it die, let it go. Something new will grow. Trust that.
Mm. And it rhymes, so it doesn't get harder than that.
We're making haiku.
Yeah, someone write this down. Um, so when it comes, okay, this is crazy. I've been thinking about this. So we chatted on Friday because we were gonna record, and it didn't work out because your computer wasn't working. But we were chatting about, I can't even process this, that you said you don't have the feeling of like when you have a conversation and then after the conversation you're like, oh, should I have said this? Would I have said that differently? Like that's how I spend my flights. That's like how what I do on flights. Like what do you do before bed as you're falling asleep? That's what I want to know. But how
Wait,
so,
you just sit there and analyze everything you've said to
oh
anyone?
yeah, I have so much to work with. The older I get to, it just enriches the experience.
It gets worse?
Well, um, there's more to comb through. But it has gotten better as I do somatic work because I was telling you, I feel better about how I show up in social situations when I am congruent with my body. So if I feel lack of congruence, that's when when I'm fawning, that's when I feel the most like hungover, socially hungover after, where I'm like, oh my God, was I being weird? Was I blah blah blah? Because I'm like, I have no confidence in how I was acting because it wasn't backed up by my body. So I'm just curious, like you mentioned you're doing all this PR right now and you're doing all these interviews, and like how do you feel like you're able to show up in a way where you're not self-censoring and you're able to Daisy, stop. We're able to be on TV, be on podcasts and videos and such, and feel really confident in what you say in the moment and after. Because I think that is something a lot of people struggle with is the self-doubt, me included.
Yeah, I have had a lot of practice, first of all, and time, because I've been doing reality TV since I was 22. So, like 20 years of releasing control of my image and my edit, and people have taken, producers, editors have taken whatever I've said and chopped it up and made it into whatever they wanted as a
Mm,
representation of me. And I think now that I have written my own story, I've written my book, I know myself better than I ever have. I've reclaimed my story. It's mine. So now when I'm showing up for interviews or going off and playing Survivor or doing a reality competition show where I don't have control over the edit, I do photo shoots where they can pick whatever photo they want. And I am not the kind of person who is like, I need to see those photos beforehand, show me
mm,
the proofs, and I'm going to comb through and pick them. I'm like, I trust you. You're a professional. Pick the ones that you like the best. And then I just let it go because I am driven by my creative lust for life. I am so enthusiastic about life and what's next and what I can create and this kind of magical experience of being in conversation with life and with the universe. When I walk out of my door, I'm like, what kind of cool stuff is going to happen today? Like, what kind of miracle? What kind of magic? Who am I going to talk to? So I don't really go back to the past
mm,
and re process or reanalyze, overanalyze what's happened in the past because I enjoy being in the present and looking for those glimmers that we talk about in the course. I look for beauty in life. I look for magic in life. I look for things that light me up, what I'm excited about, what's next. I am a 7 on the Enneagram, which I've learned is the people who are the enthusiasts. And we just don't orient to pain. We orient to pleasure
mm,
and excitement and what's next. So that's kind of my hack for not getting too caught up on, whatever. And I have this whole I do so many interviews now, and I do
mhm,
so many photo shoots and so many podcasts. And I am not going to listen to the podcast that I was on. I am not going to watch the interview that I was on. I did watch this season of Australian Survivor that I just played on and won because I enjoyed the season so much and I was so excited to watch it because I love how Australian Survivor edits the show and they turn it into this kind of cinematic movie theater experience of Survivor. So that's why I watched it. But I'm not going to watch something to criticize myself
mm,
ever. I'm going to watch something to enjoy it. And if I can't watch myself and enjoy it, I'm not going to watch. Because there's nothing I can do. I have no control. Once the interview is out in the world, it's out in the world. I have no control over that. Once the photos are out in the world, I have no control over that. So why would I waste my time?
mm. I'm just letting that sink in for a second. So, and you mentioned too, like orienting to pleasure instead of pain. You said that's kind of naturally your personality type. And then previously we've chatted about how your connection to your body also makes the world feel like a friendlier place to exist. And when you're saying all of this, again, you mentioned this, think of that glimmer practice and the orienting to pleasure, and how when you start to do that, the nervous system starts to pick up on more good things. So it's kind of like an algorithm where the more you interact with a certain type of content, the more it shows up. And so that's what I'm hearing you say. And it's exciting to even hear that because I'm like, oh, well, what's next for you? Because you've been interacting with the algorithm of like winning and fun and things like that. So I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on how someone can start to do that more for themselves if they're listening to this and they don't relate to being like this naturally?
I would say it really starts with taking exquisite care of yourself. Don't expect someone else to take care of you. You take really good care of you. Like more luxurious and decadent care of yourself than you ever have in your entire life, more than you think is appropriate or okay. Like, go get the massage, go for the long leisurely lunch, listen to the songs that light you up, like that kind of decadent. Go for the pedicure, the manicure, whatever you love that feels really good. Snuggle up on the couch with your blanket and watch a show, and like binge a show if you want, if that feels really good. Eat
Mm,
the ice cream if it feels really good, not as a mechanism of escape, but as a mechanism of really mothering yourself in like the most nurturing way, as if you had this like abuelita who was like feeding you and petting your head and brushing your hair and telling you all these good things about yourself and
mm,
how wonderful you are. That is how to relate to yourself. And then once you do that, it's like you're just pouring love onto your body, onto yourself, telling yourself how wonderful you are, how great you are, how much you deserve this kind of good, sweet care, tender love, and just keep giving that to yourself over and over and over again in a way that feels absolutely outrageous, like too much.
mm,
And you'll see it's like medicine. It's a balm for your nervous system that has probably been in distraction, hypervigilance, criticism, self-criticism, judgment, all those things, because we do, all of us have this voice in our heads that is a judger, that is a critic, that tells us how much we screwed up, how bad we are, how much better we should be doing, what we should be doing, how much more productive, blah, blah, blah. It's like this just mean, nasty kind of school teacher voice in our head that is so critical. The medicine, the antidote to that is this like kind motherly grandma voice who's just like, oh, bring you into the your her bosom and gives you like a big hug and just doesn't let you escape. And it's just like, oh, you're a shining star, you're the best, and you can do no wrong.
mm,
Just attune yourself to that voice. You have a choice. You don't have a choice that the voice exists. It exists. The critic exists and the kind grandma exists. And you don't have a choice about that, but you do have a choice of which volume you can turn up. So
mm.
you turn up the volume by taking the actions that are really loving and tender and caring for yourself and telling yourself you deserve that kind of love.
Yeah. I love that. I love the decadence too, the idea of the decadence. One image that came to me when you were saying that was when you wrote in your book about um, shortly after your separation, you would just lie around naked in your house taking naps in the sun. And I was like, oh, that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, and I would put my sneakers on. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go for a hike. And I would open the door and I would immediately close the door and I would take all my clothes off and my shoes off and I would go take a bath with Epsom salts. I buy this huge bag, like this 30-pound bag of Epsom salts from the Dead Sea. And I would just dump Epsom salts in the tub at 11 a.m. And I would take a
Mm,
bath instead of going for a hike. And then I would make myself a smoothie. And then I would listen to an audiobook. And then I would wander around my neighborhood. It was slow. The pace was very slow. And I reorganized the way that I think and operate in that time. I stopped operating and creating from survival or fear-based scarcity mode, and I shifted into a place of operating from love, from abundance, from connection to pleasure, what I enjoy and what I felt enthusiastic about. And I'm still creating some of the same stuff. Like I was operating in a scarcity, fear-based mode when I won Survivor, when I was 25. And now I'm operating in a love-based creative mode, self-trust mode, and I won Survivor. So you can create from both places and you can still create success from both places. But I will say creating from the experience of love, abundance, and safety in the nervous system and enthusiasm is more fun, it's more enjoyable, and it's more sustainable long term. So I can
Mhm.
create more and more and more from this place rather than getting burned out from the old place.
Right. Whereas if you're creating from that scarcity, it's like a burnout cycle where it's like creation and then crash and then
Mhm.
creation and crash. Whereas if you're fueled by, like you said, love and resourcing and pleasure and excitement, it's such a longer sustainability and lifespan. That also makes me remember one of the times we were in the course and someone said, I really don't have a connection to what I want. And like you said, oh, I opened the door to go on a hike and I was just no, it was a no. And I went and took a bath. I remember you said to this person, like, what do you want for dinner? You need to start there with the little things of like, what do I want right now? Do I have to go to the bathroom? Do I need a glass of water? Um, you know, I feel like we sometimes think, oh, I'll make an aligned decision when the decision is high stakes. But by that time, we don't even have that muscle built. So it's like, how can we start with the little things, like you said, of day to day, moment by moment? And kind of starting to wrap up, just your last thoughts on what is it? Because we did update the curriculum for villains. So, what is it that you'd like to bring into the new villains, or what do you hope that people will get out of it?
Well, again, as you said, this course is a living testimony of my life. So I have completely upgraded my operating system, and I have a lot of new ideas to share and tactics. Especially, I love about our course is that it's really tactical. It's very grounded and practical, and people can apply the guidance that we share in their day-to-day life, and they get evidence from their day-to-day application of what we're offering. And then from there, it just grows and expands in their life so people can grow really fast. And I think that what we're bringing in this container, this 6-week container is a just a massive upgrade in the way that we're sharing these practices and in the practical application of it that will help people to reach the next level of whatever that means for them.
Yeah. And it's actually crazy the results that people have experienced from the course, from promotions at work to separating from relationships that didn't work for them to traveling the world. And I actually, yesterday, I just saw someone who came on one of my retreats a few years ago. I taught this thing that we're going to teach in the course, which is the yes, no, maybe practice of how does my how do I feel a yes, no, and maybe in my body? And she realized that she didn't enjoy dating men anymore, so she switched her preferences to women. She met the love of her life, and yesterday they got engaged. And like that's
What?
what like that's a really big example, but like that's truly what's just like you and your past experiences as well of like
And
what
we
becomes.
also, yeah, we also had someone else in the course who was putting up barriers to intimacy. She was afraid of intimacy. And as a result of the course, now she's in a committed partnership with her partner, and she's so happy.
Yeah, I feel like a lot becomes available and it feels more aligned and more true to people. And I think that's what the course, what's really cool about it is that we're not trying to force anyone to fit any kind of box. I think it's like the very opposite. We're encouraging you to find your expression. We're not trying to force people to be bigger or louder or anything like that. It's like, what is the most true to you? And I think that's what's really special is we all kind of explore that together. So yeah, I'm excited. Any
Yay.
last thoughts before we close out?
Oh no, that was just such a good conversation. I haven't shared those ideas at all ever. So I feel in a cohesive kind of container like this. So I think that that was a really great conversation for anyone who's on the fence, thinking about joining the course, wondering if it's right for them. If this conversation resonated, I would say now's your chance. Take the plunge.
Yes. And where can people find you and where can people find your book? Because your book is really phenomenal. And if people are listening to this and they haven't read it, I highly recommend that you read her book.
My book is called Nice Girls Don't Win, How I Burned It All Down to Claim My Power. And I mean, you can get that anywhere you get books. And follow me on Instagram at Shallow. And I am doing some book events, some live book events. I'm being asked to speak
Hmm.
quite a bit recently since the book was published on the topics of relationship building,
Hmm.
resilience, and adaptability, which I think are keys to success in life these days. So I'm out and about, but one of the ways that people can connect with me is also by doing the course that you and I are teaching in October.
Yeah. Any more drag shows?
I have a drag show coming up in Palm Springs in November.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for joining. Always a pleasure.
Love you.